Mandalas might seem like simple geometric patterns, but research shows they activate the same brain regions as deep meditation, and that's just scratching the surface of their profound impact on human consciousness.
That's fascinating. Are you saying these intricate designs actually have measurable effects on our brains?
Well, studies using fMRI scans have shown that when people focus on mandala patterns, especially the mandala of the absolute, it triggers increased activity in areas associated with attention and emotional regulation. It's like these ancient artists somehow intuited the perfect visual language to speak directly to our neural circuitry.
Hmm. So how exactly do different mandalas create different effects?
It's really interesting. Take the sacred circle mandala, which uses perfectly concentric circles. Traditional texts say it helps people understand natural cycles, and modern research suggests circular patterns actually help reduce anxiety by creating a sense of completion and wholeness in the brain.
That makes me think about how we're constantly surrounded by screens and straight lines these days. Maybe that's why these circular designs feel so compelling.
Oh my god, yes. And what's really wild is that the infinity mandala, with a spiral pattern, has been shown to induce what neuroscientists call flow states, that feeling of being completely absorbed in the present moment. Ancient practitioners called this same state samadhi.
So these aren't just pretty patterns, they're like sophisticated tools for altering consciousness?
Exactly right. And here's what's really fascinating. Archaeologists have found mandala-like patterns in cultures separated by vast distances and time periods. The earliest known examples date back over 40,000 years. It's like humans independently discovered this universal language of geometric patterns.
That's incredible. How do modern practitioners use these different mandalas?
Well, the mandala of the absolute is often used in what's called contemplative seeing. You start at the outer edge and slowly work your way in, letting each layer of pattern guide your attention deeper. Studies show this practice can reduce cortisol levels by up to 27% in just 30 minutes.
And I imagine different mandalas might work better for different situations?
Precisely. The sacred circle. Mandala is particularly effective during major life transitions. Research shows it can help people accept change by activating parts of the brain associated with pattern recognition and meaning making. The infinity mandala, on the other hand, seems to stimulate creativity and problem solving.
That's really interesting how something so ancient can be validated by modern science. What do you think this tells us about human consciousness?
I think it suggests something profound about how our brains are wired. These patterns appear in nature at every scale, from the spiral of galaxies to the structure of seashells. It's like mandalas tap into some fundamental organizing principle of the universe that our minds are naturally attuned to.
Do you think that's why they're having such a resurgence in popularity now?
Well, in our hyper-connected but often spiritually disconnected world, these ancient tools offer something unique. Recent surveys show a 300% increase in mandala-based meditation practices over the past decade. People are rediscovering what traditional cultures always knew, that these patterns can help us make sense of complexity.
How do you see this evolving as technology advances?
That's such an interesting question. We're already seeing AI-generated mandalas that respond to brainwave patterns and virtual reality environments that let you literally step inside these sacred geometries. But what's fascinating is that the core principles remain unchanged. These patterns still speak to something fundamental about human consciousness.
Sounds like we're just beginning to understand their potential.
Exactly right. And as we face increasingly complex global challenges, these ancient tools for understanding unity and interconnection might be more relevant than ever. Some researchers are even exploring how mandala principles could help us visualize and solve complex systems problems in fields like climate science and social network analysis.
So these aren't just relics of the past, they might actually help shape our future?
Well, that's what makes this so exciting. We're at this fascinating intersection where cutting-edge science is validating ancient wisdom, and these timeless patterns might help us navigate the challenges of the modern world. The mandala tradition reminds us that sometimes the most powerful solutions are already encoded in our cultural heritage. We just need to remember how to read them.
Human brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons. But what happens when we expose those neural networks to cosmic radiation? Today, we're exploring a fascinating intersection of space, consciousness, and transformation that challenges everything we think we know about the mind.
That's such an intriguing premise. How did researchers even begin exploring this connection?
Well, it started with observations at specific locations around the globe, where geomagnetic anomalies create what scientists call cosmic hotspots, places where radiation from space interacts unusually strongly with Earth's magnetic field.
That reminds me of those mysterious places people have considered sacred throughout history. Are we talking about similar locations?
Exactly. And here's where it gets wild. Researchers have developed something called Astrobiological Pranic Concentrate by collecting substances from these cosmic hotspots. They believe these materials contain unique properties that can influence human consciousness.
So they're essentially trying to bottle the energy of these special places? How do they propose that works?
Well, they've paired it with what they're calling a psychosomatic lytic solution. Think of it as a key that unlocks the brain's natural plasticity. The theory suggests these molecular structures resonate with our neural pathways in a way that promotes dramatic changes in consciousness.
You know what's fascinating about this? the way it bridges ancient wisdom with cutting-edge neuroscience. Traditional cultures have long believed in the power of celestial influences.
Right, and modern research is showing some surprising correlations. Studies have documented measurable changes in brainwave patterns during solar storms and other cosmic events. This research takes it a step further by attempting to harness and concentrate those effects.
The implications for understanding consciousness are pretty profound. Have they documented any specific outcomes?
They've reported some remarkable preliminary findings. Users of these compounds show increased gamma wave activity, the same patterns we see in experienced meditators. But here's the kicker. These changes persist long after exposure, suggesting some kind of lasting neuroplastic effect.
That's incredible if it holds up under peer review. What's the scientific community saying about all this?
Like most mainstream researchers are skeptical naturally, but a growing number are intrigued by the molecular structures involved. Dr. Sarah Henderson at MIT recently noted that these compounds exhibit quantum coherence properties previously unseen in biological systems.
The convergence of quantum physics and consciousness studies seems to be a recurring theme lately.
And that's what makes this so fascinating. We're seeing multiple scientific disciplines converging on questions that were once considered purely philosophical or spiritual. The collection process itself involves sophisticated equipment measuring quantum fluctuations at these geomagnetic anomaly sites.
Well, that certainly adds another layer of credibility to the research. How are they controlling for placebo effects?
They're running double-blind trials with some interesting protocols. Participants are monitored in magnetically shielded rooms, and they're finding that even when people don't know whether they've received the actual compounds, certain measurable changes in brain activity still occur.
The methodological rigor is impressive. Where do you see this research heading in the next few years?
I think we're on the cusp of something revolutionary. As our understanding of consciousness evolves, these early experiments might be seen as pioneering steps toward a new paradigm in neuroscience and human potential.
That's such a powerful perspective on the broader implications of this work.
And perhaps most exciting is how it might change our understanding of human consciousness and its relationship to the cosmos. We're not just observers of the universe, we're active participants in ways we're only beginning to understand.
Now that's something to think about as we wrap up today's discussion.
Indeed. Whether or not these specific compounds prove effective, they're pushing us to ask bigger questions about consciousness, reality, and our place in the cosmic dance.
Healers mapped over 360 energy points in the human body that could influence our health and consciousness. Today, modern science is finally catching up to what traditional medicine has known for thousands of years.
That's fascinating timing because I was just reading about how neuroscientists are discovering these incredible connections between specific pressure points and brain activity.
Let me tell you about 3 powerful points that traditional practitioners have used for centuries. The first is Baihui, located at the crown of your head. You can find it by imagining 2 lines, one from ear to ear, another from nose to back of head. Where they intersect is this remarkable point that's been shown to enhance mental clarity and cognitive function.
So this single point on our head has that much influence over our brain activity? That's pretty remarkable.
Well, studies have shown that stimulating Baihui can increase blood flow to the cerebral cortex by up to 30%. Traditional texts describe it as the meeting point of all yang meridians, essentially a gateway to higher consciousness.
You know what's interesting? I've noticed how many meditation practices emphasize awareness of the crown area. It seems like they were tapping into this knowledge intuitively.
Exactly. And speaking of intuition, let me tell you about Yintang, the third eye point between your eyebrows. Recent research has shown that applying gentle pressure here for just 3 minutes can reduce anxiety levels by activating the parasympathetic nervous system.
That explains why we instinctively rub that spot when we're stressed.
Right? And here's something fascinating. EEG studies have demonstrated that stimulating Yintang can actually increase alpha brainwaves, which are associated with relaxation and mental clarity. Traditional texts refer to this point as the Hall of Impression because it was believed to help clear mental and emotional obstacles.
That makes me think differently about all those ancient depictions of the third eye in spiritual traditions.
And wait until you hear about Laogong, the point in the center of your palm. Modern researchers have detected unique electromagnetic properties here, measuring subtle energy emissions that change based on a person's mental and physical state.
Well, that certainly puts a new spin on the phrase, healing hands. How exactly does someone work with these points effectively?
The key is gentle, mindful touch. Studies suggest that light pressure about the weight of a nickel is most effective. For Baihui, try circular movements for 1-2 minutes when you need to focus. With Yintang, use soft pressure while taking deep breaths. For Laogong, simply becoming aware of your palm center during meditation can activate its properties.
It's remarkable how these ancient practices are being validated by modern science.
And what's even more fascinating is that we're only scratching the surface. A 2019 study using thermal imaging showed that stimulating these points created measurable temperature changes along the traditional meridian pathways described thousands of years ago.
So these aren't just isolated points, they're part of a larger energetic system in the body?
Exactly. Think of it like an electrical circuit board. These points are like nodes or switches that can influence the flow of energy throughout the entire system. Traditional texts map these connections in detail, describing how stimulating one point could affect seemingly unrelated areas of the body.
That's really changed my perspective on how interconnected our bodies are.
And here's something to really think about. These points don't just affect us physically. Traditional wisdom suggests they can influence our consciousness, our emotional well-being, even our spiritual awareness. Modern research is starting to explore these subtle but profound effects.
Well, you've definitely inspired me to learn more about this ancient wisdom that's literally at our fingertips.
That's what's so beautiful about this knowledge. It's accessible to everyone. Whether you approach it from a scientific or spiritual perspective, these points offer practical tools for enhancing our well-being and understanding ourselves better.